Hey there YouTubers, alright, so we are going to do a little installation video here with the Asrock B560m HDV. So what do we have? I'm going to throw this i3 10100 in here. Good old Intel CPU cooler. EVO 980. 3600 megahertz RAM. So we're going to see how this does with these components. I may also put in a RX 5500 XT. Now I know whether these components will work, how they're going to work already, is I've already messed around with the Z590 and aware of what works with the 10th gen. But hey, if you haven't seen it, come along for the ride. So you know, normally I don't bother putting one of these in. I'll get the computer to boot up to BIOS, but we're going to make life easy. We're just going to go ahead and put this in here. This already has the operating system on it. And, oh, you know, by the way, there's two of these on here, right? I actually have two of these, but that's Ultra. We're going to see if it'll work in the Hyper. I know the answer. Many of you watching along will know the answer. My goal is to teach you guys something, right? And or, you know, at least get this thing to boot to BIOS or the operating system. Alright, so we're putting that in. We may at some point regret that. We've got RAM, we'll put that in. This only has 2 slots, not the best motherboard in the world. This was super cheap, folks. $74 plus I had to pay tax on it and shipping. I think I got it somewhere in the 80s, but not a bad price to move up to 500 series motherboard. All right, so you know, before we do that, we're looking at this triangle right here, right? Asrock, for whatever reason, can't put a triangle on their motherboard. Look at this. This is why I'm always talking about Asrock's quality. That's not very impressive. Now here's the CPU. We want the text basically to be readable in this angle. I'm going to wipe this off in a moment. Looks a little dirty. There's your little triangle. Intel used to make those bigger, I swear. There, my eyesight's getting worse. So I'm going to put that in there. Putting it in, hopefully nice and gently. And I apologize, sometimes the camera will end up filming the wrong thing. Alright, so you can tell by looking at it, it's in there. Or is it in there, folks? Yeah, it's in there. Alright, so we're going to drop this down. If it wasn't in there, this is where you can screw up your CPU. So we want this thing to go up underneath there. Then we're going to pull down on the lever, and boom, plastic pops off. You'll want to hold on to this, put it in your box. So I'm going to clean this up, then we're going to put some Noctua paste. Alright, that's all cleaned up. Take the cap off of here. See if I have the finger strength to do it. There we go. Sometimes I impress myself, folks. You guys at home don't realize how difficult that was. Alright. 4 to 5 millimeters according to Noctua. And of course that's in a diameter. There you go. That's okay. Not the best job in the world, but so now we'll drop our CPU cooler in there. So we are reusing this. You want to inspect these. This one does not look that great. Now, why am I using this shitty Intel cooler? Well, on a channel that pretty much endorses Noctua. I don't know. Maybe it's because most of you will probably use this crappy cooler, so we're installing it. Alright, so on this guy, you know, you want to put this in there so that the cable will end up in either that CPU fan header, or in this case with this motherboard I can go with that one. So I can actually have the Intel logo in this orientation. Now it's kind of funny, I don't really care how I put my Intel fan in orientation wise. People will, you know, comment about, hey, you don't have your fan logo pointed up basically in this orientation, right? So but you know what, we're doing it for this video. Alright, so we're going to put that in. Now, you know, these guys are just going to pop in. You want to make sure they're oriented in this direction. And you want to make sure it's sitting on something soft, right? Because these guys, if they're sitting on something hard, they might not make that sound, okay? So I went from that one. I'm going to go across. Boom. And make sure that's lined up good. Boom. So that's in, right? Now, what's next? Pretty simple. We're going to do the other side, it looks like. And put our RAM in. Now this can only go in one way. You want to see the shorter side, which is here. So put that in. And this is 3600 megahertz RAM. And basically we're going to pop that down, make sure both sides are in there. Then we're going to move on to the next one. Same orientation. Pop that down. Make sure the other side's in. They are squared up. Alright, so that's it, folks. That's how you get this thing ready. Now, of course, I'm going to put this on a test bench with a power supply. And that's all we're doing with this. This is the power switch. All I'm going to do for connections is put this guy in where the power switch goes, which is on the second row, third and fourth pins. Not the first row. Maybe I should get my glasses out. Let's see. Let's use the camera and see. Yeah, we're good. Alright, so this little guy, once I hook up a power supply, that's all I need to turn it on. Now, what you're going to see in the rest of this video, I'm going to basically fast forward. You're not going to see the power supply getting hooked up. You're going to get to see whether this guy's going to work on this or not. Alright? So here's the power supply we're going to use. Pretty much this channel only uses EVGA, alright? Just so you know. This is a semi-modular, and we're going to hook up our CPU power, 24 pin, and for this part we're not going to use a graphics card. Alright, so we have the 24 pin hooked up. Of course, you know, this isn't the best looking thing in the world. And then our CPU power connector. Now, let's go ahead and see if we can fire this up. We have our power supply, or excuse me, our power switch ready to go. We have power. Let's see what happens over here, folks. So that was, like I said, a M.2 capable of PCIe 4.0. It's a B560M motherboard with a 10th gen i3 10100 CPU. So this is the first time it's firing up, and of course, you know, all kinds of stuff can happen. Alright, so take two. We forgot to plug in the HDMI. Let's try this again. Alright, HDMI is plugged in. So I'll be interested to see if this fires up. Z590 fired up, and this guy is not wanting to fire up for some reason. Alright, so unlike the Asrock Z590M motherboard, this one with a PCIe 4.0 M.2 plugged in with a 10th gen chip won't even boot to BIOS. That is surprising, and I'm a little amazed by that. So what we're going to do, folks, is take that M.2 out of the hyper spot and put it into our ultra spot. Alright, folks, so we have swapped these out. and we'll see what this thing does. Firing hole. Nothing. Absolutely nothing, folks. Now, what could be wrong here? What is wrong? All right, so we've had nothing but problems here, folks. I took the SSD out. Now we're going to see if there's a problem there. Because if the SSD's not going to work, I don't know what to say. And voila, there is the BIOS. Or not.